Who's the president that the South was accused of poisoning leading up to the Civil War? In 1850, Army General and anti-slavery President Zachary Taylor died 16 months into his term. Taylor was committed to preserving the Union and was willing to use as much force as it took to prevent Southern states from seceding. Taylor wanted California to bypass territory status and immediately become a state because he knew that if granted territorial status, both the North and the South would heavily dispute whether or not slavery should be legal in the new land. Before we go further, if you've been enjoying my U.S. presidential history content recently, please consider subscribing to the channel to join our community. And if you've already done so, thank you for joining the community. Now let's get into it. Before becoming president, Taylor was a famous general in the United States Army. He fought bravely in the Mexican-American War to preserve the Union. His victories in the war made him a national hero and helped him get elected president in 1848. Even though Taylor was from the South and owned slaves, he opposed the expansion of slavery into the western territories that had been annexed from Mexico. He believed that allowing slavery to expand would divide the country even further. The Civil War was only 10 years away, and Taylor's top priorities were all based upon keeping the United States united and preventing states in the South from seceding. He said he would use as much force as it took to prevent any state from leaving the Union. Sadly, he died 16 months into that endeavor before he was able to have much of an impact on the issue of slavery. Still, his strong stance against the spread of slavery and his efforts to protect the Union are important parts of his legacy. Taylor is remembered as a leader who put his country first, even when it was not popular to do so. Taylor did, however, greatly influence the Compromise of 1850. This compromise was a group of laws meant to ease escalating political tensions between the North and the South. The South-satisfying side of the compromise was a strict fugitive slave law which forced Americans to return escaped slaves to their owners even if they were found in free states. This upset Northerners because they had no interest in engaging in pro-slavery actions. Lastly, the compromise also let Utah and New Mexico decide for themselves if they wanted slavery. The North-satisfying side of the compromise was allowing California to be granted statehood as a free state immediately upon being claimed from Mexico. New Mexico would not officially become a free state for another 62 years after the compromise. The South was enraged that California was able to skip territorial status because that meant that Southerners could not deploy pro-slavery leaders and troops to California to spread slavery there. So both the North and the South were furious at the Compromise of 1850. At the time, tensions were high between the North and the South over slavery, and Southern leaders began threatening to leave the Union over the compromise. After Taylor died suddenly in 1850, his vice president, Millard Fillmore, took the reins and helped pass the Compromise of 1850, which Taylor had opposed. As you can imagine, this made anti-slavery Northerners especially appalled, more so than the South. The North began accusing the South of poisoning Taylor to get Fillmore in office. More on that later. Although Taylor did not live to see it happen, his leadership and decisions fueled the debate that led to the Compromise of 1850. At numerous points in this video, I briefly mentioned Taylor's death. Let's dive deeper into it and its controversies. Zachary Taylor's death in 1850 was sudden and has remained a mystery to many people. He became very sick after attending a 4th of July celebration in the blistering summer heat. At that celebration, Taylor was offered cherries and drank ice-cold milk. Just a few days later, he dropped dead. Doctors at that time said it was stomach illness, possibly cholera or food poisoning in the cherries. Hey, many aspects of American history verify that the 19th century medical treatment was poorly done and unscientific. Anyway, due to Taylor's tough, hot-tempered personality and opposition of slavery, some people thought he may have been poisoned by his political Southern enemies. This idea led to conspiracy theories that he was killed to make way for a new president who the South knew would support them and support slavery, that being Vice President Millard Fillmore. In 1991, scientists exhumed Taylor's body to test for poison, but they found no clear evidence that he had been murdered. Still, some people believed that the tests were inconclusive and not enough to solve the mystery. His sudden death was a curveball in American history because his replacement, Millard Fillmore, supported the Compromise of 1850, which many historians agree benefited pro-slavery Southerners. Another president whose death has many contributing factors was Taylor's predecessor, James K. Polk. Polk worked himself to death, but while doing so, became the most consequential single-term president in American history. Click here to learn more. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.